Hello everyone, and very happy to have you back with us. We have just got onto our southern boundary. I'm a little bit perplexed as to what's going on with the male leopard tracks that have been on Djuma, because they make a massive circular motion and I'm not sure which end of the tracks is the freshest. Either way, not feeling too much pressure because Ali's put you into a wonderful spot with Hosana and the tree climbing buffalo. Very good. Oh, it would have been so nice to know exactly what went down and if Hosana took some youthful and possibly silly risks when trying to catch that baby from in and amongst the herd, or he may have just stumbled across a baby that had died or that had separated from the herd. But I've got a feeling young Hosana took some chances. Hi Vanessa, you'd like to know what is the average length of a male leopard being dominant, and I would say 2 to 4 years would be the average range, from about 5 years of age to about 9 years of age, or 5 to 10 years of age max. But it all does depend on the individual and the kind of pressures that they get to, they get exposed to. If we take Angama, for example, he's been dominant in this area for 3 years, but you tend to find it may be kind of fluid, so he may have been dominant in another area before he got pushed into this area, and then he's getting pushed further away, and he may still be dominant but over a smaller patch, let's say. So I think in the height of their dominance will be about a 3-year period when they have their biggest territory that encompasses the most females. Thereafter you'll probably find the territory decreases, and so does the amount of girlfriends within it. But again, they could still be dominant. It's not like they lose all power completely. Hoping to find some tracks of maybe Shadow crossing back into Djuma. And thanks so much to all of you who sent through pictures of bobcats. Nikki in the final control room is very impressed by their cuteness, and thank you for sharing some pictures about them. Speaking of cute little cats, let's see if Janet Jackson's at home, or Janet Jackson rather, not Janet. There's a tree, a dead tree that's just up ahead of us here, and there's a small Janet that lives in a cavity within it. The last few times I've driven past, I haven't noticed in it, so maybe she's changed homesteads. Oh, did it? Was it sticking out the other day? Huh. Well, sadly I don't have a flashlight in the car here, but somewhere up in this cavity there sometimes is the tail of a genet dangling out. I'm told Tristan actually had a view of 2 tails dangling out of it, which is super cool. I can hear some birds having a serious commotion up ahead of us. Let's go see what's going on. Seeing as though you can't see what's happening in that hole. I don't even know what birds they are, but there's a real chorus unfolding. So maybe they found a snake or some kind of other predator. So we're going to head back there, see if we can work out what they are shouting at, and send you back to Hosana in the meantime.
Well, he just got his head up to say hello. I know you guys are still here, and he hasn't actually moved an inch. Oh, now there was a bit of leg movement to reposition himself and probably get a little bit more comfortable. But other than that, I think Hosana is pretty out for the morning. It has been getting hot altogether, so I wouldn't be surprised if eventually if the shade fades in this particular area, as there are some rays of sunlight that are starting to creep onto his skin. He'll have to move perhaps underneath a bush just to make sure that he's not as hot throughout the day. I do think that it's going to be a very hot day in this particular afternoon, so that's going to be interesting to see, and I'm sure the meat of that buffalo is going to start smelling in quite a funny way. Now there are some squirrels alarming around this area, but I don't know if they can see Hosana from when they are, because he's not really out or he's not hidden all too well, or if perhaps they are pointing towards the direction of another possible predator. I haven't heard them for a little while, but we'll keep an eye out for them. Nikki, you're wondering if leopards have eye spots behind their ears. Well, the ears of behind the ears of the leopard, they have got just dark markings, and it's just pretty much the tip of the ear is fully dark, and there's a white band at the bottom of it. They don't have spots at the back of the ears, partly, or it's considered because they actually use the back of the ears to help with their facial expressions and just general overall communication. So if the ears, or if the black part of the ears is exposed and it's gone forward, just like a normal house cut, then you know that they're a little bit upset. Or if the ears are moving and twitching at the back, then if there's a cub following a mother, then they know to just stand still and look, and of course always to follow one another in the case of a mother and a cub more than any other potential combination or social combination, just to keep an eye out on each other. And it's particular as well why the leopard's tail, or the tip of the tail, is white in color, which stands out very much from their general coloration, not the tip of the tail, the bottom part. Just so when a mother is walking through very thick grass, very long grass, and as we've been discussing today, there are occasions when the grass is longer than, or it's the same height as the car. So you can imagine that having to move through that grass, it's a little bit hard, especially if you're on the shorter side of things. So you need a focal point to start moving around. So the tip of the tail and the back part of the ears is normally plays a very important part in terms of the visual communication amongst the predators, the leopards with other leopards and lions with other lions. Just to make that clear. I'm not bothered. Jared's buddy, you're wondering if he looks more Tingana's side, more like Tingana in terms of size now than he did before. Well, he's definitely grown a lot. I don't think he's quite there as big as Tingana. Tingana is quite a big male, and he's got a much thicker neck than one Hosana does at the moment, but he's definitely grown a lot more in the last few months, and he has a very big male leopard look, so he's definitely grown into a bigger character, which obviously was as expected as he would age, but I think he's going to be on the bigger side of leopards, and he's not going to be a smaller leopard. I remember videos from a long time ago of him and Shangile, and it almost seemed like he was dwarfing Karula and Shangile at one point because he was going to be so big. So I think that trend has just carried on. He's definitely developed a bigger neck, a bigger frontal pecs, if I can call them that way, especially when compared to Tamba. Tamba is still a little bit on the slim side, but I think Hosana has been doing very well. And the fact that he's been allowed to stay in this particular area, which he knows very well, and Tingana has been quite tolerant of him, has probably given him that extra boost of confidence, because by this age he would have already as well been kicked out or pushed away by Karula for her to have, and Karula's his mother, for everybody that has been wondering about this particular name that I'm using, but she unfortunately disappeared when Hosana and his sister Shangile were still quite young. So they've had quite an unexpected teenage years or growth, but they've been doing very well for themselves, and the fact that he's been able to stay in this particular area for as long as it is, I'm sure it's played a significant role in him having this advantage and being big and confident, and just it almost seems like he also wants to start developing a new dewlap. So I think this boy is going to fare well. It will be interesting to see what's going to happen later on as he starts getting the mating call and he wants to start finding females of his own. I think then Tingana and other big male leopards won't be as tolerant of him as they've been so far. Oh, head up? No. Seems like he's still quite busy, so we're gonna head back to Scott for a little update, see what he's up to, see if maybe there's been something else around the Janet's hole. But perhaps the snake? No. Hosana's playing games with us all. Doesn't seem like he's too busy wanting to do anything else other than sleep.
Okay, everybody, we're in a bit of a rush, So hold on tight, because this car doesn't have brakes. The reason we are in a rush is because the Nkahuma Pride of Lion have come back to Djuma. So literally in the same place where we stopped and had their tracks going. Hold on, Ferg. Sorry? Oh, sounds like they're heading southeast again, which means it'll take them out of Djuma. Copy, thanks, Orbs. Thank you. But hopefully we'll be able to get there.
Maybe not far.
Hold on, Ferg.
The rest of the pride on the west of me. Maybe they're gonna form a transition very soon.
Okay.
Because they split it to where I am.
Sorry. Okay, copy, thanks, Orbs. Okay, guys, well, as you can see, I need to get on the radio and work out what's going on with these lions, but there is a chance we're going to catch up with them, which will be really exciting, and you are going to head up to the Mara with Jamie.
Go, Scotty, go! Get the Nkahumas that haven't been seen for ages. It would be wonderful if he could manage to get there on time. It inspires me to tell the tale of the very first solo safari I ever guided. Many years ago when I was young and callow and just an innocent little slip of a thing. That's not true. And essentially I'd been given a vehicle with no brakes. And I wasn't aware of this at the time, and I didn't quite know how to handle that entire scenario. So I came round the corner, not going too fast, but onto a downhill slope, and suddenly became aware of a car coming up in the opposite direction. And, you know, naturally one would want to stop in that kind of scenario on a narrow dirt road. Fortunately, I was guiding in an area with woodland, and so I just pulled off and crashed into 2 trees, and that was how we stopped. So a truly auspicious start to my guiding career. That was before I learned exactly how to use the gear. And that's how I learned to guide safaris without brakes, because that car didn't get brakes for the next 6 months. So there you have it. It was very embarrassing. And we've got a collection of impala and waterbuck, which is they are the first animals I've seen. Ah, Caesar, you want to know if lions have always been confined to Africa? And the answer to that is no. They have not always been confined to Africa, nor are they solely confined to Africa now. There are actually Asiatic lions as well. So it is, there is a species of cat that is cross-continental. Apparently, looking at the species of the big cats and looking back on their sort of evolutionary tree, tigers, I think, were the ones that were of our current species, the ones that exist today. The tigers were the first to evolve and to come into being, and I think it was the colder climate tigers, so the sort of Siberian tigers, as far as I know. But there were also lions. There were the Barbary lions, of course, would be a nice example. So there have been lions spread throughout Asia, throughout Europe at one point, and of course in Africa as well. So they're not even confined to Africa at the moment. There are certain animals, though, that are confined to Africa. These antelope would be a good example. There are very few antelope outside of Africa. They do exist, of course. We do know that, but the vast majority of antelope species, the vast majority, I think it's oh goodness, here comes a number now that I'm going to have to try and remember, 70 plus species, I think it's 75, it could be 74, are African antelope, and then the other 20 or so, or just over 20, will be found throughout the rest of the world. It's a good question. But remember, there are lions in other parts of the world as well. I hear that it is much warmer on Djuma. We are busy shivering still in the Mara. Let's go and watch as Hosana sleeps off the heat of the day and the heat of a full belly.
Hosana's definitely not worried and not shivering, I can tell you that much. Shame, maybe we need to send some of the warmth and the sunshine all the way to Jamie, all the way to the Masai Mara, because I think we're going to have a nexus today. He's got this typical leopard look and, well, just in general cat look, that he's a bit too full. Though his stomach is not as big as you would expect it to be. Sometimes, you know, they have like almost like a ball inside of their stomach. But he does have that look as in like, oh, so hot, so hot, so hot. I just need to try and warm up. But he's choosing a good spot. Because as you can see from all the grass around him, there's a little bit of a breeze going in. So he's not suffering altogether. Jacqueline, you're wondering if male leopards mature mentally as well as physically. Well, I would assume so, yes, in terms of what behavior they're supposed to show as they grow older, and then with experience they also learn new tricks and they develop new habits or new traits of their particular personality. I do think some of them are always, certain things are always going to stick with them. For example, if a leopard is quite shy when he's little, he'll probably be the same when he's older. Or if he's more adventurous, likely he'll still be the same. But just with everything, I think they learn to take more calculated risks there, rather than diving in. And then, well, experience also shows them what to do and what not to do. So I think we could relate it to pretty much just everyone's behavior, or even human behavior in that sense, that as you grow older, well, then you mature and you start acting slightly different than what you did in your younger days. Responsibilities become different. He's going to have to become a territorial male, have females of his own, defend his territory, patrol, advertise his territory, call. So there are a lot of things that he will still have to do that he's still not quite doing. He's a little bit too young, but I think even in the time that I have seen him, he's changed. He's gone from, you know, almost like a shyer version of himself when initially his mother was lost, and then he's just grown into a much bolder and very sure of himself type of leopard. And you can see him here. He's got absolutely no worry in the world. So I can say so. Yes, there's been a change in his personality, but for almost like he's matured, as you say. He's become more of an adult leopard. You can always feel sorry for them. Caesar, you're wondering if leopards use strategies when they go hunting or if they improvise. Well, I think it's a little bit of both. So they do know how to use the wind and the sun in their favor just to mask particularly their scent so that they're not given away. And then the camouflage of their spots, and they know that they have to keep low on the ground and try to approach their prey. So there are strategies involved that they learn, some of them by instinct, some of them by role-playing when they're little with their siblings or their mother. But definitely they don't just see something and then just run straight at it. They've got to learn how to use the environment that they're in just to hide. Because although leopards are very fast, and they're only very fast for a short term of time, so they've got to try and approach and use their environment, go around, use the wind just to make sure they camouflage themselves and their scent, and then get close enough to their potential prey so that they can pounce on at the very last minute. So they do have to use certain strategies, but I also think that leopards in particular are very clever, and there's a lot of improvising in the sense that they are opportunistic creatures, so they will try to work a situation in their favor and just try to, of course every hunting situation is different, but they will try to use them in their favor and just modify them, and then just making sure that it'll give them a better chance of actually catching whatever it is that they're after. Now you can see, this is a very interesting close-up, because you can see, we always wonder what the leopard fur will feel like, and you can see it's very coarse. It's not very soft hair. You can see it's actually to be able to survive in this environment, and all the little nitty and gritty things that come into his skin will, well, not his skin, his coat, I should say. They're going to get trapped in the hair just so that they don't go out and hurt him. So it's quite interesting to see it from that perspective. JM Video, you're wondering if a big cat's fur goes gray as they get older, or if becomes a different color. Well, some of them, I don't think it's quite that obvious around their body, but you can see it mostly around their faces. You will see that sometimes their face will go of a slightly lighter color that will just give them away, but it's not as radical as, for example, as we think about it in humans, or perhaps even some species of duck, where there will be a very, very quick shift, and you'll be able to tell straight away that that animal had a different coloration when it was a little bit younger. They do fade, and like I said, more especially around their face. I think probably that's the area where it's a little bit more obvious that it's an animal that's aged. You're so pretty. Hosana, you are having the life. We're gonna sit around with him for a little while longer, see if perhaps he does decide to go up in the tree. But while we do that, he's just busy looking at the vehicles moving away now, because obviously we are at a sighting with other vehicles from some of the lodges around. Let's go over to Scott, who's peeking into Torchwood, and see if maybe by any chance he'll be able to have a glance of one of the lions, although it's not looking that promising, unfortunately.
Hello everyone, copy thanks Orbs. It wasn't looking promising, but apparently there is a lioness that is about to cross in front of Aubrey and his vehicle. You can see it's getting nice and hot here in Djuma. Looks like a mirage off in the distance, and I fear that even though there is one female mobile north, so she'll be moving from right to left, I think, from judging from Aubrey's update, it may be that we're a little bit low down here and may not actually get to see her. You'll notice how we can't see any of the vehicle's tires, so we might not get the view we're hoping for. But the lions are still kind of moving about, and they were actually on Djuma. We must have just missed them. Quite frustrating that they came on and off and backwards and forwards, all whilst we were in the wrong place to see them. We were literally right here 10 minutes ago. Anyway, at least we know where they are, and they're not too far from our boundaries, so maybe the guys this evening will get lucky with some lions, or tomorrow morning. And for any of you who may be new to the Safari Live experience, it's important that you understand that it is for a good reason that we do have boundaries, or at least the humans have boundaries in this reserve. The animals don't, but we do, and they're just invisible road boundaries, and it just means any one area doesn't get too busy at any point in time, which makes everyone's safari that much more enjoyable. So the humans have rules, but the animals don't. Very good. You might be able to see some of the lion tracks that Ferg's pointing out to you over there. That's of a big male lion. And we're going to send you back to Jamie in the Mara.
But we need rules and animals don't. We almost, I'm sorry to hear that you missed out on the Nkuhumas. We almost missed out on this business of banded mongoose that have been one of my favorite things about being in the Mara. It's such a pity that we didn't have a chance, or we didn't really get to discover the families that are more relaxed around vehicles, because these are, most of the time when we see them, they are just disappearing bottoms. So a banded mongoose, obviously part of the mongoose family or the herpestid family, and they are highly, highly social, highly intelligent little problem solvers. Oh, somebody got left behind. Run, little mongoose, run. Stopping, standing up on its hind legs to look around. Where's everybody gone? Probably, although we're a little bit far away, probably making little contact calls, frantic little contact calls. Chirp, chirp. Trying to find the rest of its group. Most of the time we only really see them as they're moving in waves through the grass. One of the weirder moments of living in Hoedspruit, which is where Brent and myself live, was one day when we were on leave, we had two come and visit us. And they came closer and closer to the gate, and then Brent went outside to have a look at them, and they promptly climbed up his legs and snuggled into his arms. Two hand-raised banded mongoose that had disappeared from their person who'd rescued them and decided to come and visit us. Reptilian Research says yes, that you love those kind of mongoose. I'm so sorry, I can't find them again for you. Come on, little mongoose. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh, there's a jackal though. A jackal that's looking decidedly the worse for the wear. Okay, so I'm sorry. Mongoose are gone. Eddie wants to see a mongoose print. I'll have a look out for you, Eddie. The tracks are very easily identifiable while our jackal relieves itself. Tracks are very easily identifiable. They are very asymmetrical, a very asymmetrical track. Jackal, on the other hand, have beautiful little paw prints. I don't know if this jackal's been in a bit of a scrap, or it looks a little bit disheveled. Oh, it's been attacked by the mongoose! No way! No way! I cannot believe that just happened. You go forwards, you think we can see them from there? That was insane! I have never seen that happen ever in my life. No. What a weird day. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? You got him. Whereabouts? Well spotted, Adrian. Do you want me to go forward, backwards? Where would you? Ah, there they are. Well done. That is the craziest thing I think I've ever seen. Maybe not the craziest thing, but close. Hands up if you saw that one coming, because if you saw that one coming, I will give you a round of applause. That was unexpected. I don't even know where the jackal went. Well, I did say it looked a little bit the worse for the wear. Attack by a mongoose. Trust me, I know it's not pleasant. I've been bitten by one. That was one of the most unexpected things that has ever happened to me. Talking about surprises in the long grass, this morning is full of them. Oh, that poor jackal was all alone. But of course, there's a reason that the mongoose went for it, and that's because jackal are not just scavengers, they do hunt. And Caesar, you want to know if a jackal hunt or travel in packs? We've been talking about wolves. They don't necessarily hunt in packs, they hunt in family groups. So they form a monogamous pair that they stay together for life, if they both survive. They stay together for life, and often what will happen is their pups reach adulthood but stay with the parents for a little bit longer. Sorry, there's something really grating in my eye. And essentially, when they've got these large family groups, they can actually coordinate together and hunt things like baby antelope. We've seen them chase scrub hare. The mongoose were not taking any chances. And that was unexpected. I did not see that coming. It's the first time I've ever seen that. I love the fact that we can still be surprised. Nearly 10 years I've been doing this. Where'd you go? I think that was one of those amazing moments that have happened, and now they are not to be repeated. So I'm going to continue on. The mongoose are running away from me now. Do you want one last view of the mongoose? Nix? There they go, they're running, looking backwards towards the jackal. I don't know if you want to just maybe have a look at them one last time. Here you go. They've got little ones with them as well. That explains the defensiveness. Very cool. So there you go, a nice little conclusion to the tale of the battle of the mongoose versus the jackal. Who would have thought it? And through it all, our somewhat full, rather lazy Hosana has slept peacefully.
That must have been hilarious, just watching all those mongoose mobs a jackal. I would like to see if they would be as brave with the leopard. Maybe if they had the element of surprise on their side, they would chase off Hosana, give him a fright, and maybe he would run up and get up and start moving. Would be quite interesting to see. Now, he seems a little bit more uncomfortable now with the heat, but there's more of a breeze, so I think he's just being a fuzzy cat now, like cats can be, because they want all the best conditions. And he's still breathing quite quickly, so that gives us the idea that he's probably still very hot and busy, spending a lot of energy trying to digest. You can see how his throat is moving. Now, because they don't sweat like what we do, they have to use their mouth and their system to pant to regulate their body heat. So just to make sure that they dissipate a lot of the heat that's coming in, and they use their mouth as a big air con almost. Oh, nice stretch. It's almost like he's on his massive, king-size bed, which is pretty much all of the surrounding grass. You see, that's a typical Hosana look when he looks up like that. I think that's the most typical thing that we can get out of him. So pretty. Molly, you're commenting on the fact that Hosana has got a very pink nose, and if that's the way it should be at his age. Well, yes, as he goes older, and as we were saying earlier, that sometimes the animals change a little bit of their skin color and perhaps they turn a little bit whiter. Actually, it's a good way of wrapping up that whole conversation, and I should have pointed out that their noses also, they tend to get darker as they grow older. So as he grows older, you'll see that he won't have such a pink nose, but he's still an indication that he's not a very old animal, and that's why he's got that pretty pinkish nose, which makes him very pretty, in my eyes at least. It's almost like he's thinking he wants to go up, but he doesn't want to, but he's lazy, but the heat is bothering him, perhaps the grass. I don't think he's decided just yet as to what he wants to do. He keeps moving and swapping around. What you doing now? Keeps putting his head up and then going back down. Then look up. Jared's buddy, I think maybe you are right. Maybe Hosana is thinking now, why did I eat that whole buffalo? Why? Yeah, I think that's one of the lines that we could go with. He's definitely not looking all that comfortable, but I mean, he has to eat all that buffalo in order to survive, and just to make sure that he's got enough food to carry on growing into this big male leopard that will eventually take over a territory. Now, if you look at his stomach, it is full, but it's not as full as it can get. But it's part of the reason probably why he's panting so much, because there's a lot of meat in there, and protein takes a very long time to digest and to process, so it takes him a little while to get all of that until where they feel comfortable again. And I don't know if you've ever experienced it. I only experienced it once, and it was the most horrible feeling. I don't even know how it happened, where you have a braai or a barbecue and then you just eat so much meat that the next day you still feel sick because you've almost had like a protein overload. Nice shot of that little paw. So that's exactly what they feel. It's almost like having a protein hangover. And, they've got to sleep it up. That's pretty much what he's doing right now. Now, judging by the position of the sun, he's not going to be able to stay around there the whole day. He'll probably have to move into the shade of a nearby tree. But for now, and as long as it lasts, he's very happy not to have to move 1 inch to be able to enjoy the breeze that's coming through. Atomic Orange, you're wondering if they get more spots or bigger spots as they grow. Well, they are born with pretty much all of their spots already. There's not a real change in pattern, but what happens is as they start growing and their body starts expanding, then it's almost like their spots start stretching out. So he would have had all of these tiny spots, but maybe bunched up together and would have been a lot closer. So that's why when you see a tiny leopard cub, it almost seems like for the first few weeks of its life that it's actually just got black spots all together. And as they grow older, well, then they start expanding and taking their exact place almost in view of us out here. I don't even know how to put that into words. It's just that they start expanding and the spots start growing and expanding with the animal's growth. And the more he grows, the more the spots are going to start expanding, or the bigger that they are going to become. Shame. You are not having the easiest time. I can't believe he's actually only just looked up like twice. What a lazy cat. We'll sit around here a little while longer, see how this plays out, and if he does decide to get out and about and start moving a little while. But in the meantime, let's go over to Scott, who has the power of positive thinking on his mind. So if there's anyone that can find another cat with positive thinking, I'm sure it'll be Scotty.
Yes, we have a recent development. We've just stumbled upon some lion tracks, and it looks like there was just tracks of 2, possibly 3 lioness, and they're heading towards this kind of open little area here. I was hoping to find them snoozing, but no joy. And what could well have happened is that, and has been happening recently with the Nkuhuma pride of lions, is that they've been splitting up quite a bit. So I'm wondering if Aubrey's not with the rest of the pride. It sounds like he's only got 8 individuals there, and the other individuals' tracks are here. So maybe we'll get lucky. The tracks are kind of heading towards the treehouse Waterhole, where maybe we'll find them relaxing, but we just need to do a big loop around to get there. I am really hoping that Hosana does get up before the end of the safari and show you how beautiful he is when he's not asleep. So good luck to Ali and that little plan, and in the meantime, there's another animal that you'll be happy to go and see all the way back in the Mara with Jamie and Ostrich.
Okay, so I agree with Scott. I hope that Hosana gets up, but perhaps Scott will get lucky and find you some lions before the end of the sunrise safari. We have got a truly, I was going to say elegant. I think there's something very elegant about their feet, but perhaps less elegant with their scruffy looking feathers. Now, I stuck around, by the way, and I waited to see if the jackal would come back to chase the mongoose, but he didn't. Obviously decided he'd had enough of that. Was clearly very, very unexpected. The biggest bird in the entire world is strutting her stuff on the plains of the Mara. I don't know why she's all alone. I actually feel quite sorry for her. She doesn't seem to have any company here at all, apart from the Thompson's gazelles. But unless she's suffering from an identity crisis, that is not the company she wishes to keep. It's very unusual to see an ostrich all alone like this, particularly a female. You almost invariably see them with groups of other females and a couple of males, perhaps one male. I don't know why she is all alone. You will, of course, see vehicles, or you would have seen a vehicle moving in the background. It is an area where tourists can come and view these animals as well. One of the most fascinating opportunities I ever had was to examine, after a cheetah kill, examine the stomach contents of an ostrich. And it was quite amazing, the rocks and pebbles that they eat, and the size of those rocks and pebbles. Pebbles. So a lot of the time, ostriches will actually pick up little rocks and pebbles in order to aid the breakdown of their food. So most birds will do something similar, or quite a few birds will do something similar. And because they can't chew, they don't have teeth, they swallow the food that they're eating pretty much without any kind of breakdown. And once it gets to the stomach, the powerful muscles of the stomach contract and actually grind it down. And the stones just help to aid that process. But I mean, when I say I've seen big pebbles, one was almost the size of a golf ball. Perhaps it was an unhealthy ostrich, but I don't think so. Big marble would be an example. Caesar, the approximate height of an ostrich would be around about, let's say 2 meters at its head height, which is very, very intimidating if you are shorter than them. In fact, they're intimidating regardless. They are massive birds, and they can get quite aggressive, particularly ones that are comfortable around human beings, or big male ostriches. A big male ostrich can reach almost up to 3 meters in height, which is a terrifying thing. Not quite up to 3 meters, but close to. I have been on the receiving end of a few attempts by ostriches to intimidate me. No, not attempts. They successfully intimidated me as a child. They can be quite terrifying. I remember once watching my little brother, who's quite a lot younger than me, from very far away. I watched him walk. I'd gone on a hike and I was looking down on him. And I watched him walk around the corner of a house, and I could see the ostrich coming the other way. And at that point, my brother was only eating white bread. There was a moment of a serious surprise there as I watched from afar and watched the tiny blob that was my brother drop said bread and run very rapidly in the opposite direction. He's always had a surprising sense of survival. Let's put it that way. Scarlett, the differences between the ostrich and the emu, there is a massive size difference. They are an ostrich is quite a lot bigger than an emu, and they are quite a lot heavier as well. An emu also has 3 toes, and ostriches 2, and we find them in different places, of course. The other main difference is that we have never had to wage a war against ostriches here in Africa, whereas I believe that honour goes to the Australians. I'm sure somewhat tongue-in-cheek, the Great Emu War. I do believe the emus won, or at least whoever kept the records of that battle. Oh, Raffaele, a lion. Hey, that's quite cool. She's got an itch. Well, I suppose that makes sense. How else are you going to scratch it? Raffaele, yes, a lion can kill an ostrich. It doesn't happen all that often, but they can. It could easily just be one lioness that could tackle an ostrich. They're strong enough to do so. The ostriches do have a very powerful kick, and that large front toe, that's not really a front toe, is it? That large toe, the big toe, has an almost, I wouldn't say razor-sharp claw, but on the back end of the momentum of the strength of the kick can actually cause really serious damage. Cheetah more commonly hunt ostriches. And as soon as the ostrich is overbalanced, then it's all over. As soon as its legs are knocked out from under it. Leopards could kill ostriches as well. All of the big cats could potentially kill an ostrich. And a topi. It wouldn't be a Mara Drive without a topi. Okay, we're going to continue on. We're going to go and see what else we can find. Scott hasn't found lions yet, but that's okay, because he's found you something stripy.
Found a zebra, and the first zebra I've seen in weeks. So quite excited by the fact that lone is around. Maybe he's heading off to the rest of a herd in the thickets. No joy with the lions, but I'm quite confident that there could be some lioness on Djuma. I think that the pride had fragmented, and the tracks that we saw behind us coming onto Djuma was only for 3 individuals, not for 8 that Aubrey found. So I think the guys this afternoon could get lucky somewhere in this general area. They could be between where we are here at this waterhole and our southern boundary. Not the only animals at the waterhole was not only the zebra, but also a waterbuck. I've just heard some baboons starting to have a commotion. It could be intra-troop. Just like yesterday morning, we had the baboons shouting at one another, working out who's boss within the troop. 420, you'd like to know if we ever have any incidences with crocodiles. Well, I've never been bitten by one. I've tried to catch crocodiles once or twice without any joy. There was one that lived in a tiny little mud wallow, a small crocodile, not a big one, and I got into this mud wallow and searched desperately for it everywhere, and I just couldn't find it. It was a terrifying experience, and certainly quite fun though. I was astounded at how it could hide from me. The mud wallow that it was in was probably only 2 meters in diameter, but I couldn't find it. Scuba Steve is in this waterhole. He's a very shy hippopotamus. That's why he only shows us his nostrils from time to time. He's back, and he's actually not the same hippo that we've been seeing at Buffelshoek Waterhole. I thought that it was the same guy, but I drove past both waterholes the other day, and there was one hippo here and one there. So we do have two hippos on Djuma, and this guy is certainly the shy Scuba Steve. Hello, Tristan. You'd like to know if we get ostrich here in Djuma. Occasionally ostrich move through this area, but very, very seldomly. I haven't seen one on Djuma personally. I think the guys saw a couple on Chitwa Plains where there's some bigger, more open clearings, which is better suited to ostrich. And I think in my 3.5 years in the Sabi sands to the south of where we are here, I think I only saw an ostrich once or twice. So you do get some areas in the Kruger Park where they are more common, just as, you know, in the kind of more open areas, and are almost as commonly seen as you see them throughout the Mara. The Kruger is a very big ecosystem, considerably bigger than the Mara portion that we get to traverse. I would say it's about 3 times the size of the Mara, the entire Kruger National Park. So it does encompass a lot of different habitats and animals throughout the extent of the reserve. Wonderful stuff. We're going to continue on, maybe try and spend some time with the troop of baboons that I can hear shouting up ahead of us, and we will be ascending you back to Jamie Patterson. I'm not sure if she's still with her ostrich or what's going on, but I'm sure she's got something planned for you. Maybe it wasn't.
I would like to be Jamie. I wouldn't mind being her at all. I actually think she's very cool. So here is me. I'm not really Jamie, but we're still with Hosana, and now it almost seems like he does want to get up. He's had his head up for more than about 30 seconds. He's still feeling quite uncomfortable, and he gazes up at the tree constantly. So I am hoping that he'll go up at some point and carry on moving, and perhaps maybe he'll show us how a leopard really climbs a tree. But so far, no luck. I think he's, I don't know, here's to positive thinking of the power of our minds combined to get Hosana to actually perhaps move. You know, you can just stay in the fork of the tree. We won't complain. Now, it seemed like far away in the distance there was something he could hear that obviously we could not, with our impaired senses, which are never as good as the animals. It seemed like there was something up ahead that he's been listening intently to. So I wonder what it is. It almost seems like it came from that area, because judging by where he's looking, well, he's looking in that area. So I don't know. We had some water bug earlier on that were running, dashing across the plain space up there, and we were hoping that maybe we were going to see lions chasing them or wild dogs coming after those water bugs, because they were really going for each other. But I think part of the issue was really that there was a male that was maybe a little bit too boisterous chasing females, and that's why they all went running, because we sat very tight here looking in that direction, and there wasn't really anything that we could see that would have prompted them to start running in that particular manner. But that was a little while earlier, and Hosana wasn't too fussed, but now he's been looking in that direction. And now he's back to not really caring. Just feeling a little bit too hot. But we're going to... I don't think he knows what he wants to do. We're going to stick around with him maybe for another 5 minutes or so and see if he does decide to move up. And if not, then I think we're likely just going to leave him to his morning nap. But let's go to Jamie and see what she's up to.
I know what I want to do, and that's hide away from this wind as quickly as possible. So we've got one jackal here, as the grass blows around its head, that is not being harassed by a group of banded mongoose. I'm still completely taken by surprise at that entire situation. And the jackal, it appears to be a little bit embarrassed. So this is a different jackal. This whole plain, in this particular area that we're in, is a regular spot where we get to see a family. I think it's a family of jackal. And they occasionally attempt to hunt the baby Thompson's gazelle. That one's much sleeker looking. Bit windswept, but definitely sleeker looking than the one that we saw earlier. Oh dear. Poor jackals. We seem to have a tendency to... What is it about today? We just keep interrupting them when they're in the middle of their business. Jackal's obviously had quite a good meal. And now potentially off in search of another one. They're amazing looking animals. Just watching us. Trotting off. Come on, come say hello. Natural curiosity. I think it's a bit stiff-legged. Caesar, one of my... It's okay. Silly little jackal. One of my favorite sounds in the entire world is the sound of a jackal call. They don't howl like coyotes, they sing. Oh, got a little bit of a fright, jumpy because of the wind, I think, but still not running away from us. Blackback jackals sing the most beautiful song in the evenings, and something that we hardly ever hear in the Mara, and you find that in certain places they're more likely to call than others. But I promise you, if you search for the sound of a blackback jackal calling, you will see what I mean. They also bark, they yip, especially when they're alarmed. It's possibly one of my... I always talk about how I can't choose my favorite sound out here, but blackback jackal is definitely one of my favorites. I wish we heard it more often. Them oversized ears, constantly scanning, listening. Even through this wind, you'll be able to pick up on the sound of a rodent scurrying. Okay, off trots our little jackal. Let's go back and rejoin Ali with Hosana, who I don't think is trotting anywhere this afternoon, morning, whatever it is.
Definitely he will be here this afternoon, unless something unexpected chases him away, but I think he is having the best nap for now. So we've decided that we're going to leave him to his nap. I don't think he's going to be up to pretty much anything other than trying to digest. So we're going to allow him to just digest in peace, and we're going to start our long trek back all the way to Djuma. Who knows, maybe we'll bump into something else on the road. I am hoping for, Tingana, last minute leopard, the Hukumuri mill, which I don't know, Tandi, Shadow and not Barbara. I'm not picky. It can be any one of them. Perhaps even a lion. Bye-bye, Hosana. Thank you for being here. Woo-hoo-hoo. So exciting. All right, I'm gonna go out this way so that we don't... Ooh, we're gonna get... I try to get out of here. We're gonna back to Scotty and see if he perhaps finds also another mysterious leopard out of nowhere.
Well, I'm thinking of some last-minute breakfast, to be honest. I'm starving. Some delicious leftover chicken wings that were fried over the flaming coals yesterday evening. We also had some vertical chickens, which were quite tasty as well. Whole chickens, roasted on the braai. Wow. Darby, my boy. Darby is one of my good friends, everyone, and he just asked if there's a gym here at Djuma and if I've been using it or whether it's just a new camera angle. And Dave, there is a gym and I have been using it, but not that much over the last couple of weeks, been a bit lazy. But it's also Ferg's fancy camera work and some special lotion he rubs on my body. No, let's stop. Let's stop. Ferg hasn't been rubbing any lotion on my body. Dave, good to know you're watching, and I look forward to seeing you on Saturday in Durban. Brace yourself. So for those of you who haven't got the updates yet, Nikki and I are heading out on leave today. We're going to spend a night in the Timbavati with a friend of mine there, which is a reserve just like this, open to the Kruger National Park, but privately owned. And looking forward to catching up with him, going on a little bit of a drive around an area with slightly different terrain and vegetation. And then tomorrow we will be in Johannesburg for a night, and then I will continue down to my hometown Durban for a couple of days. Then Cape Town, then the Masai Mara, which I'm very, very excited about. I think I'm gonna get straight into a vehicle and drive straight across to the other side of the river and catch up with the cheetah across there. I've been missing them as much as I've been loving spending time with the leopards here on Djuma. Sadly, no joy with them on my final soiree, but it has been a very, very productive time with regards to leopard viewing and some awesome interactions and sightings with them. Well, no joy finding the baboons that we heard shouting a little bit earlier. I was guessing we were going to find them somewhere here. We saw them playing around these same clearings yesterday, same time as now. But no joy. I'm told there was a vervet monkey when we went back to change vehicles from the broken down vehicle a bit earlier. We had a big box of marula fruits that we're planning on making some marmalade with today. And we left them out in the sun yesterday on our doorstep so that they would ripen. And when Kirsty woke up this morning, she saw a monkey sitting on our doorstep helping itself to a box of delicious marula fruits. And when I got back in, I saw some of the discarded skins and seeds on our doorstep. So we at least gave a vervet monkey a good breakfast this morning. And I'm told Nikki's got a picture of it. Hopefully I'll actually be able to find it. Kirsty maybe sent it to the group. Just going to get back into Wi-Fi range, which we will be in Wi-Fi range shortly. We're very close to camp. Kirsty didn't send it to me. How rude, Kirsty. She only sent it to Nikki. There's a bit of girl power going on in the camp at the moment. The girls are outweighing the boys, and they're bullying us, really, to be honest. It's quite interesting, though, to be outnumbered by girls in a camp. I just had to drive straight over a tortoise because the brakes weren't working. Very good. Well, we've got back to camp. I will be going straight for breakfast, and thank you very much everyone for the last couple of months in the Sabi Sands. It's been a great adventure, and I look forward to the next adventure with you in the Masai Mara. But for now, it's bye from me for the next 2 weeks, and over to Ali for the rest of the safari. Goodbye and thank you.
Well, Scotty will certainly be missed in the Sabi Sand, and I'm very excited that at least I got to share one drive with him all the way down here in one of the best places on earth. So who knows, maybe sometime soon we'll be able to share it somewhere else, or maybe he'll be back here and I'll be back here. Who knows what the future holds, but for now, let's just be grateful of the opportunity we got. Always good to be out and about with people that truly enjoy the bush. It's one of my favorite things. Now we are also heading for a breakfast, as we're also hungry. And who knows, maybe all the girls in camp will actually get more breakfast than the boys, and we'll bully them off the bacon and eggs. That is a thought. I will definitely be bullying everyone out of the coffee, as I normally tend to do. You can just ask Tristan, who doesn't even drink coffee. I think it's because of fear of the amounts that I tend to drink. I'm still hoping that there will be something around here, maybe that leopard that we didn't find that was around this area somewhere in here, but who knows. We'll just leave all of the options open for possibility. It's probably the best thing to do. I find that it's very rewarding to be gratefully surprised by the universe. Alright, we are going to carry on our way to Amanda's breakfast, and we'll send you back off to Jamie, who also wants to say goodbye, and I believe she's got a very interesting bird that she's looking at. So let's go over to Jamie. See you all guys later.
I wish everyone would stop talking about breakfast.
Alright, hello again. Seems like I'm not done saying goodbye yet. Seems like the gremlins attacked Jamie one last time with a big bird that she had. So I'm pretty sure I can speak for Jamie, although there's still hope that she'll come back for the last few minutes. or the last minute of drive. I'm not too sure. Hopefully she'll be able to fight them all off and she'll be able to say her goodbyes. If not, then well, I've thoroughly enjoyed being out and about in Djuma today. It's always interesting to see how everything's changed, how much thicker everything is, despite the fact that the wet season is not as wet as it's supposed to be, and it's still a little bit on the dry side. But it's funny, one of the interesting changes that I've noticed is that despite that there's a lot more greenery around and there's grass and the vegetation seems to have somewhat recovered, or well, it's looking the way it should be for this time of the year, some of the water holes are not looking as full. But Vilde did mention yesterday that Buffelshoek Dam is looking quite full, so maybe that'll be the plan for the afternoon. Head onto that corner, also go and scan that area around, see if perhaps all of the creatures, all of the lions, maybe they'll want to come back to us. That would be wonderful. I would definitely like to say hello to all of them and see what they've been up to, because trying to keep up with all the updates of all the animals while I've been away has been most interesting, because they always seem to surprise us and see what's going on. But I think for now, our chance of keeping up with them during this morning drive is pretty much, or has pretty much come to an end, as we're all heading back home and all the animals are preparing to sleep it off. So we'll see you all for the afternoon safari.